All right, you know what that means. You hear the music. It is time to start the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. How's everybody doing? As this is championship week for the Columbus Lions, I got to support the local team here in Columbus. The Columbus Lions are in the championship in the AIF, taking on the Corpus Christi Tritons. Also, I'm nowhere near Columbus, and I got the virtual background in Columbus here, and I'm excited about the show because I've got a guy who's been a frequent guest here on the show. He's got a show of his own, and we are going to get into that. And we've even had mutual guests, and we'll talk about that. I thought that was really cool that he's had some guests on his show that I've had on my show. So without further ado, please welcome to the Sports Beat, my friend, longtime guest, Philip Jordan. What's going on, Philip? There you go.
Man, I've been silenced already. I hadn't even said anything yet. I didn't know I'd offended
No.
anybody yet on the show. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here as always. It's been a while. Things have changed.
It's been a couple months.
I'm happy for you that you don't have to look at me at my dining room table anymore in front of my patio doors. I'm glad now you actually have a little sports memorabilia behind me for everybody to look at. So I've tried to make my my presentation look a little bit bigger, at least from the background side of things. I was like, hey, if you're bored with what I'm saying, at least you can admire some sports stuff in the back.
Well, Phil, let's talk about you and your podcast because you have retooled your show quite a bit. Your podcast is now called Upon Further Review with Philip Jordan. You've been the host of the Philip Jordan Show. You've had a podcast dedicated to SEC. We've had mutual guests. I just got excited. I saw Zach Kyleman on your show. I had him on my show when the Columbus Lions were the NAL, and Zach Kyleman's a host of a show called Inside the Walls. It's actually dedicated to the National Arena League. And so I've had him on quite a bit when the Lions were in the NAL. And then you also had Jake Crane from Crane & Company. And he's been on my show as well. I got excited because when I was watching your show, I saw two guys that's been on my show. And that's really what it's all about. When we love sports as much as we do, we have mutual friends. We get them on our shows. And they're really able to come on our shows in any time because they love sports and they see what we're trying to do. And so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I had Jake on several years ago, back when I was doing Talking SEC. This may have been before he even got with Cowherd in the volume. This is like way back. So I said, let me see if this phone number still works. I shot him a text. Within 5 minutes, he got back to me, and we did a podcast the following week. And what I like about Jake, he's had all the success, but he hasn't forgotten about the other people out there. He still goes on people's shows. Be very easy for somebody with the stature that he has now to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to do the big stuff. But yeah, and Zach, yeah. But we talked UFL last week when I had Zach on. Because look, I do not show favoritism mostly in sports, but Richard, I do show my bias when it comes to the Birmingham Stallions, who are playing for a third straight championship.
And rightfully you should.
I don't know. Do you see my social media posts when they win? What I always put on there on Facebook and Twitter?
You always say the good guys finish first or something like that.
The good guys winning it. So can I tell you a story about that?
Sure.
So I went to a few weeks ago. I went to the Birmingham Stallions St. Louis Battlehawk game. Of course, it was a big deal. AJ McCarron was coming back to Alabama to play a football game. I went with some friends. Now, I'm the Stallions fan. One friend's kind of like he's leaning Stallions, but he's also just rooting for a good game. And another buddy, he is a Battlehawks fan. I think AJ probably has a lot to do with that. So Birmingham holds on, fourth down stop. They win the game. I turn over to my friend and I said, "The good guys win again." And it's just something I do. I did it once or twice, and that's kind of like my deal. The Birmingham Stallions are the good guys. Contrary to belief that a podcast out there that covers these spring leagues, they had post. I'm not going to name this podcast, but they did go out and say that on Saturday everybody is Michigan Panthers fans, showing his biasness. But yeah, the Stallions are playing for another championship this week. But anyways, that's kind of what me and Zach talked about last week, the playoffs.
Well, we got the UFL championship, which is the USFL champion, the Birmingham Stallions, who've won the last two. In fact, the only two UFL seasons the Birmingham Stallions were champions. Going up against the XFL champion, the San Antonio Brahmas. The Brahmas just came out of nowhere after finishing 3-7 last year. As you remember, the Arlington Renegades ended up winning the championship last season. Do you like this format where they have the XFL champion taking on the USFL champion, or do you want to see the UFL with like East and West divisions or North and South divisions?
I guess it was the only. Okay, I like it and I don't like it. And here's why I'm going to say I don't like it. And I leaned it this way when the season started. I think it kind of grew on me as we went through the season, because you merged the two leagues, the XFL and the USFL. I just think you need to kind of almost, or my mindset going into the season was, you just kind of like need to wash your hands clean of those two names. Do an East and West or North and South divisions. And another reason why I was not really big into it, because when you look at the USFL division, so you've got Michigan, Birmingham, and Memphis. Those were all USFL franchises. Well, the Houston deal was interesting because you had two Houston teams. In the USFL, it was the Houston Gamblers. XFL, it was the Houston Roughnecks. So the compromise, I guess the owners of the two leagues came to was, we'll have the Houston Gamblers roster, but they have the Houston Roughnecks name. But that's an XFL team still when you look at it, because most people aren't going to know that. I mean, let's be honest, most casual fans flipping on, they're not going to know that's the roster of the Gamblers. So I kind of hope maybe, if this thing can keep going and they can make it successful, they'll kind of get away from the USFL, XFL conferences. As we saw this weekend, they had the XFL trophy, the same one they used before, which I think that is a hideous looking trophy. I think the USFL trophy is 10 times better. It looks like a trophy. I mean, that XFL trophy looks like I just got something I bought in the toy section at the Dollar General. I'm just going to be honest. I'm interested what the UFL trophy is going to look like this week. But yeah, so I was kind of against the beginning. It grew on me. It's kind of cool because Birmingham can say that they have won 3 straight USFL championships, which is true. Which is true. They have done that, but obviously they're playing for that big prize. But what's interesting? The one team that beat them this year is the San Antonio Brahmas.
Yes, the San Antonio Brahmas just having a great season. And I'm not sure if he's on the roster, but former Carver Tiger Puma Pass was on the roster for the San Antonio Brahmas last season. And so just a big shout out to Puma Pass. Remember, if you don't remember, Philip, this was the quarterback that replaced Lamar Jackson in 2016. Lamar Jackson went on to the NFL, won the Heisman Trophy. And Puma Pass, who just shattered records for Carver, was playing in Louisville and had some pretty good games. And even though Louisville did not have the record they quite had with Lamar Jackson, he's shown some flashes of just some talent. And I was just glad to see him go to the next level and at least get a roster spot on the Brahmas. But I'm not sure if he's on the team anymore.
Yeah, they've had so many quarterbacks on this team
That's
this
right.
year. I mean, it's been quarter. That was the interesting thing about the two championship games. So you had Birmingham and St. Louis, who all year St. Louis has been AJ McCarron set when he got hurt after Birmingham, and then you had Adrian Martinez was mostly quarterback, which he got benched for Matt Corral. But then you look at the Michigan team and the San Antonio team; they've really much been playing quarterback roulette. Um, they had AJ Perry, who was the starting quarterback at the beginning for Michigan. Then it became Danny Etling and Brian Lewerke, formerly Michigan State quarterback. He came in, that went back to Danny Etling. And then you looked at the Brahmas, who beat St. Louis on Sunday in St. Louis in front of 30,000. St. Louis is the best attended team out there. But anyways, they have went to the quarterback. Chase Garbers was the quarterback to start the season. He gets hurt. Quinn Dormady played a big chunk of this season, and then Chase Garbers has been back. But yeah, so it's been quarterback roulette with them. But San Antonio, this team was people predicted him to be the worst team in the league going into the season. And then Wade Phillips and that staff, along with AJ Smith, his offensive coordinator, really did a great job with this team. They like to run the ball. They have probably the best defense. They have the most sacks. They
Well, Wade
allow the
Phillips
fewest
knows
points.
defense.
That's it. And yeah, so that's going to be tough. Look, they held Birmingham to 9 points when they played each other in week 9 a few weeks ago. They held Birmingham to 9 points. And that was kind of like the first game because Adrian Martinez. Now, I don't know if you've seen this. He gets benched on Saturday, but now he is the MVP of the league. He may not even start
It's
in the
incredible.
championship game, but he had been off. It kind of I say it started when they played Houston in week 8, but he really struggled against San Antonio. He struggled at times against Michigan last week, and then again when they played Michigan again in the playoffs, he struggled, and Matt Corral took over. That I don't know if he's going to ask the question, but that's going to be, I think, probably the most intriguing thing, especially on the Birmingham side of things. Who does Skip Holtz start? Do you go with the Adrian Martinez, or do you go with the hot hand and Matt Corral, who brought you back? I mean, they were down by double digits in the first half Saturday.
Well, Philip, I've always been a fan of Matt Corral. I feel like if he did not get injured, I think that he would have been at least a second round pick in the NFL draft. He was just balling at Ole Miss. And then the Panthers, they drafted him, and I thought that maybe he could get back to his old form, but that's somebody you want to root for. I just been impressed with Birmingham's fan base. I know you said you've been to a game. What's that atmosphere like at Protective Stadium? I know that was when the USFL, that first year, that all the USFL games were being played at Protective Stadium because of COVID. But now that it is officially Birmingham's home stadium, what is that atmosphere like?
It was really good for that one. There's been some games this year where attendance has not been great, and or that's been a criticism. But I think really outside of St. Louis, attendance is an issue for every team in the UFL because the league came together so late when they merged. But that game against St. Louis, it was a great atmosphere. It was fun. Obviously, more people were coming out to see AJ McCarron, Alabama fans, but it was predominantly still a Birmingham Stallions group. Now, last year when I went to game when it was a USFL game, they played the Philadelphia Stars, which I wanted to go to that one. That was a rematch from the 2021, 2022, excuse me, championship game. And that was a fun one too, as well. Back and forth, came down to the wire. I didn't go to a game the first year when all the teams were there. I just didn't make it out to one. But yeah, it's a good atmosphere. You can tell the ones that are there. Of course, I don't know if you've seen this, Richard, that there's a trend now with Birmingham home games. There's a pyramid in the end zone where pretty much all the guys there are shirtless. And it has that's turned into their thing there in Birmingham, I guess. The guys in the end zone. So
So, Philip, because you cover the Wiregrass area down in Dothan, I've noticed, I've seen some of your work. Dothan does have a soccer team. Just want you to elaborate on that. And have you heard of the Dothan Snipers out of the PBA? That was a team that's been around for a while. I know the PBA is a very lower tier basketball. I know you're not a basketball fan, but I'm just seeing what's the sports atmosphere like down in Dothan.
Yeah, I got a minor league soccer team, the Dothan United Dragons. I covered, and that was my first game attending because it was only their second. They've played 7 games, but they've only had 2 home games. Right now they sit at 3-2-2. Um, in their division, they are in second place behind Asheville City, who they had a 0-0 tie against on Saturday night. But it's pretty cool. Um, Good crowd, a lot of electricity. A lot of people are excited about the soccer team. I had never covered soccer before, which I mainly did as a photographer, but you can go check out my article about it over at Wiregrass Daily News. Um, but yeah, you got a soccer team. It's fun. I think the Dothan people are really getting behind it. They're really excited about it. There's a rowdy group of fans. You can tell they're at the games, and I expect I will be at more, covering more um, as the season goes on throughout the summer. But that's fun. Dothan having a professional sports team is a really really cool deal.
Philip, we are, I want to say, approximately 70 days. I'm trying to do the countdown now. I think someone said 67 days to the first week. If you want to call it week 0 in college football, sure, why not? August the 24th, the big game over across the pond, Georgia Tech, Florida State in Dublin, Ireland. But really, I want to talk about week 1 because we've got some incredible matchups. I know that first official week of college football, I don't know about you, Philip. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm probably watching college football from the noon kickoff. Actually, I'm watching College Game Day at 9:30 in the morning, unless, of course, I got to go mow the lawn. But I'm watching that from 9:30 in the morning all the way until, like, if Hawaii's playing a game like at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I know you're probably the same way, but that first official week of college football, we've got some massive games. And I think that we have games that really could determine the fate of several teams. I do want to talk about 4 games in particular that are going to be top 15 matchups. When the new preseason poll comes out, these teams are going to be on top. I'm going to start with the noon kickoff. Georgia and Clemson in Atlanta. Georgia's already going to be a double-digit favorite, and I think that Clemson's got something to prove. I think that Dabo Swinney wants to try to say, "Hey, we're still a legitimate college football playoff contender, no matter how." He does not adapt to the transfer portal. Clemson still gets 4 and 5 star players. But is this going to be Georgia just imposing their will and saying, "Hey, we're the best team in college football," and is that going to be like a beatdown? Yeah, you're shaking your head. Definitely. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. Clemson has no shot at this game. Here's what bothers me, Clemson. And we always focus on when they won the 2 national titles. You had 2 NFL quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson
That's right.
and Trevor Lawrence. They also had NFL wide receivers on those teams.
Great D
Richard,
lines too with Sealand Farrell.
they don't have an elite wide receiver. They have not had an elite wide receiver in a while. And I think that's one of the big things that bothers me with him. And Dabo not embracing the portal. I mean, he needs to recognize where college football is going, or he's going to find himself on ESPN or Fox or one of these networks.
That's a good
Um,
point.
if he doesn't adapt, he's going to find. He reminds me of coaching, not the off the field stuff, of Les Miles, because Les Miles never adapted when he was at LSU. He wanted to run the same old tired offense, and he just didn't adapt. But then you looked at Nick Saban, he did. We all Nick Saban did not really want to go to the hurry up offense or the spread offense that he ended up doing, but he knew he had to win in college football. And here's the thing too with Georgia. Who did Kirby Smart learn everything from? Who was that guy?
Nick Saban.
What did Alabama always do in these opening games against other power teams? They blew them out
They
because
would
look,
they would destroy them. Look at 2016 USC, which I was getting ready. I was like, it's USC, and that was Sam Darnold's first year, and I thought that USC is like, oh, we've got the players to match Alabama, and Alabama just complete beatdown. They've done that to Wisconsin. They've done that to Michigan. I mean, we could just go on and on.
I think what's going to be happening with Georgia and Clemson. I mean, Georgia's been preparing for this matchup, and Georgia's going to be a ticked off team this year because they look. We all know Georgia was one of the best 4 teams in college football last year, but
Oh, no question.
just because the way it laid out, they couldn't be in the playoffs. It's just the way the way it happened. But you can't tell me one if them and Alabama play 10 times last year. I think Georgia wins at least 7. I think, especially if Brock Bowers is in the lineup. I think Georgia would have beat Michigan. Georgia would have beat Washington, and Georgia would have beat Texas. But what happened? They lost to Alabama. They didn't get in the playoff. So that's just the way it is. But I think this team is going to have a chip on their shoulder coming up. Right now, they have the number 1 quarterback in the country when it comes to NFL draft stock in Carson Beck. We know the defense is going to be loaded. So yeah, I just don't see Clemson. I just don't think Clemson's got the playmakers to make this a game offensively. I think Georgia's going to smother them. I would not be shocked if Clemson does not score a touchdown.
Yeah, Philip, I'm not seeing myself doing a lot of TV flipping on there. I might have the multiple screens. Maybe I might get a glimpse of Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt. And, Ohio State's playing Akron and CBS, which, so long to CBS with the SEC games. Let's talk about the 3:30 game on ABC. Miami and Florida. I really like the quarterbacks here. Miami, Cam Ward, the transfer from Washington State. Florida, Graham Mertz. But I do believe that Billy Napier is on the hot seat because Florida has a brutal schedule. If they don't win this game, and I do anticipate that these two teams, I think Florida will be in the AP top 25. I actually do. I know that they lost Ricky Pearsall, but they still have some good skill players. Graham Mertz is a good quarterback. I think that this is going to be just an incredible game. And I'm looking at, this is in the swamp. So, Miami having to go to the swamp. But I was looking at the recruiting class for Miami. Mario Cristobal has himself a very good recruiting class. They got some 4- and 5-star players on the defense. I think that Miami team is going to be an underrated defense. But Florida's playing in the swamp. This is a game that the Florida Gators must have.
Looking at it too, this is both coaches, I think, are on a hot seat per se. There's more pressure on Billy Napier. Look, you went
a little bit warmer for Billy Napier.
Yeah, you went 6-7 year one. You did get to a bowl game, but remember that bowl game? It was an embarrassing performance. I think it was against Oregon State. And then last year you go 5-7. You don't even make a bowl game. There's pressure. I mean, you got to win at Florida. I think the 3 coaches that I think are on the biggest hot seat in the SEC right now: Billy Napier, Sam Pittman, and Brett Venables. And at Oklahoma, still getting used to saying Oklahoma and SEC, but he's got to win. But also Miami's got to win, and Miami's got a sneaky good team that maybe could give Florida State a run. I think. I don't know if you're going to ask me this or just as a teaser or anything in the future. Florida State's my favorite to win the ACC. I mean, I really like what Mike Norvell has done at reloading that roster. He's done a great job. So, but Miami with Cam Ward, this is a sneaky team. But you know what? With Mario Cristobal teams, I've noticed a trend. He's not good at end of games.
Oh, like the not taking the knee against Georgia Tech.
He makes big time mistakes, clock management at the end of games, and he has got to get better at that because you're obviously going to play in close games. and then look, the ACC after Florida State, what is it going to be? Is it going to be Louisville again? Is it going to be? And then you've got, of course, Miami, Clemson too as
I do think
well.
my sleeper in the ACC is Georgia Tech because of
They
Haynes King. I do
they're
think that Georgia Tech is going to at least get 8, maybe even 9 wins.
yeah. I mean, it's because the ACC is not great. Um, but again, so it's in a spot I think where somebody could step up and really take over. I don't really know how any of the new teams in the conference are going to do. I think SMU might be a team to look out for. I think Rhett Lashley's done a really good job with SMU. Cal and Stanford, of course, are in the conference. Oh, how weird is that?
Uh,
Oh,
they- are projected to be the 2 worst teams in the ACC.
they should call it the Coastal Conference. Just remove the Atlantic. But then I guess with SMU, you got them there. But who knows what SMU can do offensively? Obviously, it's a jump up there in a competition. And usually, what happens with teams like SMU when they come up into a power conference is the depth. They're pretty good 1 through 22, but it's depth, the attrition of the season. But yeah, but back to the Florida and Miami thing. Yeah, this is a big game for Billy Napier. You can't say game one is a must win, but it's kind of close to it because this game really sets the tone, and it will for Miami too. It sets the tone for the season. You get up and win, and just think for them, if they lose at home, Miami in the opener, and like you said, 2:30 ABC nationally televised, it's going to get even hotter for Billy Napier. So he's got to get that one. He's got to beat Miami week one, without a doubt.
Yeah, just want to remind all my viewers that Philip Jordan is on Central Time. So when I said 3:30, that's 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. There you go. I just wanted to let everybody know. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the primetime game. By the way, I mean, I'm going to be glued to the seat for that one as well. I mean, I'm going to have my eye on Georgia State, Georgia Tech, because of the debut of Georgia State football coach Del McGee. And plus they're 2 Georgia schools, so why not? But and of course Alabama and A&M against Auburn. Even though Auburn's playing a tune-up game against an FCS school, you want to see the development of Peyton Thorne. You want to see if Peyton Thorne is gonna, if he struggles, then Auburn has got to go with another quarterback. But if Peyton Thorne is lighting the world on fire, then it gives you a little bit of confidence when Auburn has to play tougher teams. But Philip, the game of the night is Notre Dame, Texas A&M. I mean, Notre Dame is always going to be in the top 10, regardless of the talent coming back, because it's Notre Dame. It's the brand on the jerseys and on that helmet. It's just the pageantry, but also they do have the former Duke quarterback Riley Langford coming to the transfer portal, taking the place of Sam Hartman. I do think Notre Dame is going to be good this year. Texas A&M, first-year head coach Mike Elko, but Connor Wegman is back. Remember, Texas A&M had that big recruiting class a couple of years ago. I mean, this is an SEC team that's probably an 8-4 team going up against a Notre Dame team. It's strength on strength, but who do you got in this game?
I am not a Notre Dame guy, but you know what? They're going to be a playoff team this year.
Oh, and it's
Riley
at Kyle
Leonard.
Field. I thought that was a neutral game. That's going to be in front of the 12th man. I actually think Texas A&M is going to steamroll Notre Dame.
And of course, the excitement of a new head coach. And Jimbo Fisher's
Yeah.
no longer there. He's at the house collecting his millions.
Do you remember when Notre Dame had to play Georgia in 2017 and 2019?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then, and that wasn't even opening game of the season either.
Yeah.
That was like the second or third week. This is opening night. I think A&M is going to be really good on defense. I think they're going to give Riley Leonard
This is
trouble.
SEC football. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is SEC football. I know that our friends from the North say that Notre Dame is the greatest thing to college football. And nationally, we want Notre Dame to be good. I remember the 2013 National Championship. Everybody was rooting for Notre Dame, except if you were an Alabama fan.
Yeah, that game was over as soon as Alabama got off the bus. Uh, that's
Yeah,
just it
yeah.
was
I
over.
watched the Manti Te'o documentary. I know.
What it was second or third play of the game. AJ McCarron just turned around, handed it to Eddie Lacy, and he just ran right up the middle,
I don't even
all
think
over.
Manti Te'o tackled him. He didn't want to tackle.
He was tackling invisible people. I mean,
You know what? He could relate.
yeah. But
No, I
anyway,
mean
yeah.
he's a good guy though. Anyway, yeah,
I'll
it's just
probably lean A&M in that one.
yeah, me
Now
too.
there's only one team up north that can compete with an SEC elite team this year, and that's Ohio
It's,
State.
yeah, it's Ohio State. Well, let's talk about Ohio State because I actually think when I did my top 25, you have the AP poll, you got the JP poll, you got the coaches poll. Well, I had like my own poll. I said Georgia's number one. I had Ohio State number two. I put Alabama number three. I think with Jalen Milrow coming back, I know that this lovely magazine, my little cheat sheet that I went to the grocery store and got, I know that I was reading this and I might read this cover to cover. And maybe one day, no, I'm not going to say it. I will probably never be as smart as Josh Pate when it comes to college football. But I've been doing my homework. So there you go. Yeah, I just don't think I'm on the same stratosphere as Josh Pate. But with that being said, I think it's Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. I don't know who the fourth team is. Is it Oregon? Is it LSU? I mean, who do you think, if you were to rank the college football teams? I'm not going to ask you to pick, okay, who's getting in the college football playoff because, it's still early. Is there a fourth team behind maybe Texas?
See, you got to me, you've got Alabama ranked way too high. You got them ranked way too
Oh,
high
really?
because for me,
Yeah,
and here's the thing with Alabama for me. I'm not saying they're not going to be good. So for anybody accuse me of that, but there's too many unknowns now with this team. I mean, we know they're talented, but one, they pretty much got to replenish their entire secondary. That's number one. And then how does Jalen Milrow take
that's true.
to the Kalen DeBoer offense? We just do not know how this team is going to look. So I would go Georgia 1, Ohio State 2. I'm going Texas 3. I think Georgia and Texas will play twice. I think Georgia and Texas, that's your SEC championship preview. A fourth team, I'm telling you, I like Ole Miss's roster. I think this is going to be a really good football team. Uh,
Jackson
I,
Dart, but they did lose Quishon Junkins. Uh,
I think they'll
yeah,
be fine. I think they'll be fine at running back. And then Oregon's going to be good. I'm not on Michigan now. Penn State will be a better team. I think we can say I've got Alabama as the fourth best team in the SEC going into the season, behind Georgia, Texas, and Ole Miss. Now, some people are telling you Ole Miss is going to win, is going to get to Atlanta, and that's not far fetched because Ole Miss does not have a tough schedule.
yeah.
Um, I think their toughest game is against Georgia, and they get Georgia at home. So, I mean, Ole Miss has got a pretty favorable look on their schedule. So that's some teams to look out for. I think Florida State's going to be really good. Um, Oregon's a team. I mean, we'll see what Washington's got. I don't think Michigan's going to be great. I just
They
Jim
lost a
Harbaugh.
lot of players from that national championship team and Jim Harbaugh. I think the Sharon Moore did a good job as the interim coach. I mean, but it's going to be a rebuilding process for Coach Moore in Michigan. And remember, I don't think Michigan is the second best team in the Big Ten because now you got Oregon, you got Washington, you got USC. And I think that I think Oregon is going to end up meeting Ohio State in the Big Ten championship because remember they did away with the conferences, the East and West, or the legends and leaders. Actually, they haven't had that in years, but yeah, they did away with the divisions, so you could actually see Michigan and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, and then the new Big 12. I think Utah is the best. Going to be the best team there. Coming over from the Pac-12 because with Cam Rising coming back and they've got most of their defense. I like Utah.
I like Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Um, yeah, that magazine's just outstanding. Like coaches on the hot seat. Obviously, Billy Napier. They actually had Dave Aranda from Baylor. If he don't go to a bowl game, I think he's fired. But what do you think the realistic record is for Coach Prime at Colorado?
They need to get to a bowl game, I think. But the thing about it, okay, so now they're moving from obviously the Pac-12 now to the new Big 12. But how did they improve the offensive line? That was a big problem for them. Shedeur Sanders, is he still going to be running for his life? I mean,
Probably.
that's what I need to see. I need to see the offensive line's better. If that offensive line's not any better, they're looking at another losing season. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Another 4-8 season.
And my question is, what happens at Colorado when Deion's sons are graduated?
I actually think that,
and Travis Hunter, which I guess,
Travis Hunter is gonna. Shedeur Sanders is actually projected to be one of the top quarterbacks in the 2025 draft. They got him as a top 10 pick. It's going to be interesting. They actually opened up the season against North Dakota State. That is not an easy game. We know North Dakota State, Carson Wentz, Trey Lance, making it 5 straight FCS championships. And they are a very dangerous team, and that's who Colorado opens up with.
Yeah, that's one you don't ever want to schedule. We'll see what happens with Deion and getting his team ready and all that stuff. But, yeah, line play, defense line too. Their defense line wasn't good last year either.
Well, Philip, I'm excited that college football is just around the corner. I definitely want to have you back on, especially when we get closer to the season. I mean, you're obviously a very passionate fan of college football. It's tough because we're not playing games right now. I don't know how Josh Pate does it. He has a show 3 times a week talking about college football when they're not even playing games because we can't say the word off season. I mean, it's not in our vocabulary.
And he doesn't do guests a lot either.
No, Cole Kublik, whatever his name is. Yeah, sometimes he comes on.
I mean, I know he was interviewing coaches for a little bit there. He kind of has that point of the offseason where he does a lot of
the Pate State Speaker Series. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very, very awesome. Yeah, I mean, the work ethic that he does when it comes to college football, I mean, that is the gold standard. And I know that it's tough, but we are excited about college football just around the corner.
Any football is excitement for me.
So. NFL, yeah. All right, Philip, before I get you out of here, tell all my viewers and listeners where they could follow you on social media and how they can listen to your podcast.
All right, you can follow me on social media, P Jordan SEC. Upon further review, you can watch it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over at the Philip Jordan Sports Facebook or YouTube channel, my Twitter account, P Jordan SEC, or over at Wiregrass Daily News, that Facebook page. It streams 7 o'clock Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And you can also find the podcast wherever you get podcasts. So go check it out. Video, audio, whichever one you prefer. Got you covered there. Wiregrass High School Football Report is returning in a few weeks. Start gearing up for that. And, of course, all my written work, Last Word on College Football, where I covered Auburn Tigers.
Nobody covers the Wiregrass area like Philip Jordan. I'm talking all the way down to Enterprise, all the way up to Eufaula. And by the way, I know you covered Dothan, but Russell County is playing Eufaula and Rehoboth this year, and they are part of the Wiregrass. Although Eufaula is kind of borderline Wiregrass, borderline Chattahoochee Valley, but we'll claim
I cover them. They're part of they're part of us. Put it this way: if they're in our listening audience and Eufaula is part of that, we cover them. And that's the cool thing, with Rehoboth, they're moving up to 6A. They were 5A school, they're moving up to 6A. The last couple of years, honestly, I haven't really covered a lot of 6A because we didn't have a 6A team in the Wiregrass because Dothan used to be one, but then when the two schools merged, they went up to 7A. Enterprise has been 7A, since they brought in 7A. So now with Rehoboth moving up to 6A, I want to cover all all seven of them now. So yeah, so Rehoboth, big jump, big transition year coming for them, going from 5A to 6A.
Absolutely. Thanks once again. It's Philip Jordan, host of
Thanks
a
for having me.
podcast called, yeah, absolutely, Upon Further Review with Philip Jordan. And I enjoy listening to it. And you've got great guests on your show, and just continue grinding and keeping up the good work. And thanks once again for being on the Sports Beat.
Sure thing.
All right, that's it. That's our show. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and watching us late tonight. I'm actually watching the super regionals between Georgia and NC State on pins and needles right now. But hope everybody has a great night, and we will talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.